right, to discuss this further, I'm joined now by Charles Kupchan in Washington, D.C. You're a senior fellow at the Council of Foreign Relations. It was also part of the US National Security Council during the Obama administration. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Kupchan. Donald Trump, in those comments a little while ago, was sounding very confident that everything was proceeding as expected. But is that an image he needs to project? And therefore, do you think that that is actually the reality?
I do think that Trump is trying to project confidence, to project a sense that this is a great deal and everything is moving forward. And that's because he has to, right? This was a war that went sideways. In some ways, it imperiled Trump's presidency because of the impact on the price of gasoline and the affordability crisis in the United States heading into the midterms. You know, the bottom line is there are lots of loose ends, lots of balls up in the air. These conversations have gotten off to a very rocky start, suggesting there's a bumpy road ahead. But I do think that, at least for now, Trump is going to try to communicate momentum, try to communicate optimism, to try to keep these conversations moving forward. But it's going to be difficult because we've seen just in the last 24 to 48 hours how much disagreement remains between the United States and Iran on the most basic and fundamental issues on the table.
Can I put to you one of those basic and most fundamental issues, which seems to be nuclear ambition or the nuclear program, however you want to refer to it? What actually do you think needs to be in that deal for it to be a better deal for Donald Trump than the JCPOA was?
You know, I think that there are two key issues that are going to be under discussion. One is the stockpile of highly enriched uranium, about 1,000 pounds, plus an additional stockpile that's enriched to about 20%. In the JCPOA, most of Iran's nuclear material was exported. The question is, what happens to that? Does it get downblended? Does it get exported? It needs to be under wraps, and those wraps need to be carefully monitored by the IAEA. And then the other key issue is the future of enrichment. My best guess is Iran is not going to give up its right to enrich under the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty. But I do think that there's common ground. A suspension that lasts, say, 10 to 15 years, low-level enrichment for that needed for civilian purposes, 3.67%, more monitoring. I think there is a deal that can be struck here, but both sides have to be willing to make some tough compromises and concessions, and this is going to take time. The JCPOA took 2.5 years. There's no way they're going to get this done in 60 days.
What sort of a time frame do you think is realistic then?
You know, I think that we're talking about at least get into the next calendar year. And to be honest with you, I would not be surprised if both Iran and the United States run out the clock. That is to say, they keep talking, they keep negotiating, the Strait of Hormuz is open, but there is no final deal even by the end of the Trump administration. That outcome would not surprise me at all.
What's the advantage to doing that if you are the US president? We know that midterms are looming, but does that help things or not?
You know, I think that Trump wants this off the front page. Trump does not want daily discussion about Iran. And if the Strait of Hormuz is open, if the price of gasoline goes down, if fertilizer and other petroleum products are getting back out into the global market, then it does recede from the front page. And I do think that Iran needs to be and will be watched like a hawk. And if they try to restart the nuclear program, if they engage in other threatening activities, I would not be surprised if there is, again, a use of force, but something that looks more like the surgical attack last year than this full-scale attack that we saw this year. I think it's clear that Israel and the United States were attempting regime change. They wanted to topple the Islamic Republic. It didn't work. They're not going to try this again.
Charles Kupchan joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.